We're going to reconvene this meeting and report back from the in-camera session on item 7.3.2. There is a motion that is going to be read out by the clerk.
Through you, Madam Chair, in regard to item 13.1 from the closed session, Councillor Pelleshi has a motion that's moved that for the council office contract constituency assistant positions, that they be converted to full-time positions in the corporation.
Recorded vote. Okay, all in favor of that?
Recorded vote's been requested. All in favor, please stand to be counted. Showing in favor is Councillor Fortini, Councillor Medeiros, Chair Miles, Councillor Scrovieri, Councillor Pelleshi, Councillor Willens, Councillor Moore, Councillor Gibson. All opposed, please stand to be counted. Showing opposed is Councillor Bowman. Madam Chair, that motion carries 8-1.
Thank you. And then the next item on the agenda is item 7.3.2, and that was the added item in regards to media. And there is a motion to be put on the floor. You had, sorry. Would you like a glass of water? Okay, I said that the next item is 7.3.2, which was the added item media, which we went in to get information that was client solicitor privilege. And there is a motion that's been prepared that will be moved by me. And just the clerk would read it out.
The motion is moved by Councillor Miles, is that this matter, being the item on the agenda, be deferred to the June 14th, 2017 Committee of Council meeting to allow staff to review the motion and respond back to committee with a report, including a possible closed session report as applicable.
Okay. Recorded vote, please. All in favor of that?
All in favor of the motion, please stand to be counted. Showing in favor is Councillor Fortini, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Medeiros, Chair Miles, Councillor Scrovieri, Councillor Pelleshi, Councillor Willens, Councillor Moore, and Councillor Gibson. Madam Chair, that motion carries unanimously 9-0.
Great, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda then is item 7.2.9, which was the matters arising from Member Services Committee meeting of May 8th, the public agenda. Would someone like to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Gibson. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. The last item on this agenda, on Corporate Services Committee agenda, is the Councillor's question period. Any questions from members of Council in regards to this? No questions noted. Mr. Clerk, thank you very much, members of Council. I will now pass the chair over to Councillor Bowman to deal with economic development.
We have a staff presentation today, and we have several staff reports to work our way through. So we will begin with Kelly Stahl, Senior Manager, Culture Services, Economic Development. Your city, your summer 2017 summer events. Kelly.
Thank you. There we go. Perfect. Good afternoon. Pleased to be here this afternoon. I'm joined today by a number of staff from the Economic Development and Culture team who are sitting here in the gallery, who are here in support of the presentation that I'm going to make today. So, Economic Development and Culture Division recently aligned the 3 civic theatres, Garden Square, festivals and special events, and tourism, with a vision to move from an ad hoc festival planning towards the development of an annual event strategy with programming designed to build pride and community attachment and create economic impact. By curating and co-creating a summer season of events with local talent, emerging artists, and community organizations, we hope to reinforce the image of Brampton as a vibrant, inclusive, and eventful city that has something to offer visitors and locals alike. We're starting off the season, our summer season, with our Brampton event on June 10th. Brampton is the kickoff to summer, a day when more than 35,000 visitors come together to celebrate our young, growing, and diverse city. This year's Brampton showcases our game changers and highlights the city as an emerging urban center through food and drink, family and fun, culture and entertainment, and community and heritage. For the first time ever, Brampton will feature global flavors from 15 local restaurateurs and encourages visitors to eat together at a 100-foot community table hosted by Loblaw's Real Canadian Superstore. Family entertainment runs from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., while the main stage entertainment continues into the evening with Brampton's own Unbuttoned, Arts Walk of Fame inductee Esco Levi, and the fast-rising Northern Stars, the Jerry Cans, as the headliner. We moved to Brampton's public market as the next to launch with the downtown Brampton Farmers Market set to open with 75 vendors and local artisans on June 17th. The market runs from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. and features a bi-weekly market newsletter, including a market map and highlights seasonal produce, recipes, and vendor profiles. On June 22nd, the weekly evening community market in Mount Pleasant Village opens as a curated artisan market, featuring producers, one-of-a-kind artisans, and prepared food vendors from 5 to 9 p.m. Next up in our summer schedule of events is Canada Day on July 1st. Brampton celebrates Canada 150 July 1st in Chinguacousy Park. Promises to be a day of family fun, live entertainment, and fireworks. With many new elements added this year to celebrate Canada's 150th, the event features a lumberjack show, Aboriginal performances and crafts, a zone dedicated to sports enthusiasts, and the unveiling of the Community Muskoka Chair project. This project is Brampton's legacy initiative to celebrate Canada's 150th anniversary, with 24 community organizations and schools, as well as 41 community artists, creating chairs inspired by the theme, Strong, Proud, and Free. I'm pleased to announce today the main stage lineup, starting at 6 p.m. with the opening act, the Road Apples, one of the most popular Tragically Hip tribute bands, followed by a fast-rising Canadian stars, Yukon Blonde, and our headliner for the event, Big Wreck. We move to the summer season in Garden Square. Kicks off officially on June 12th and runs daily in the square for the duration of the summer. Garden Square is the front lawn of the beautiful Rose Theatre and takes a twist on traditional programming when we kick off daily programming on June 12th with the launch of Monday Nights, Brampton on Screen. You all have a schedule in front of you today with the schedule in the front and the movie schedule on the back side. So Brampton on Screen highlights Brampton's top YouTube personalities as they join us in Garden Square. Hosted by Brampton's very own Anthony McLean, audience members will be able to connect with some of the city's growing and online sensations. In celebration of Canada 150, Discover Canada on Tuesday nights encompasses a variety of interactive activities, including some of the great past favorites like East Coast Kitchen Party and a country and western celebration. Brampton on Stage features live entertainment every Wednesday by some of Brampton's brightest and new emerging talent. Returning is Throwback Thursday to deliver all of the past family favorite and cult classic movies on the big screen. Garden Square Live on Friday nights features local opening acts before the biggest and brightest GTA artists hit the stage. And a doubleheader of family-friendly movies will run throughout the summer every Saturday evening. We're doing a doubleheader on Saturday nights with the first movie running at 7 p.m. and the second at 9. And there'll be animation and activations in the square starting at 6 p.m. each week. And finally, on Sundays, you want to cheer the home team on Sunday afternoons when the Toronto Blue Jays take on the top teams in Major League Baseball. Rose Theatre, as you were aware when we did our season reveal last week, we have summer programming that starts with the legendary Gordon Lightfoot on July 20th and continues through the summer. All of that information can be found in the Rose Theatre season brochure. Wanted to highlight a little bit of community events and how we're investing for impact. This is a list of the summer events that are happening that aren't corporate events, but they're events that we are supporting through the community grant program. So it's to show that there's a number of activities that we may not be directly responsible for. But through advisory of our community grant program and support from the festivals and events team, or support from the Rose Theatre, we're supporting our community-led initiatives and building capacity in the community organizations for their events. Also wanted to highlight some of the sport tourism things that we have coming up in the summer in Brampton. We talked about sports tourism last time that we were at Committee of Council, and really want to encourage that our residents and visitors are participating in not only some of the arts and culture activities we have, but some of the sport tourism highlights that we have this summer. So there's a highlight there on the screen as well of some of the significant tournaments and sporting events that we have happening. So in closing, all of the event information can be found online at brampton.ca/events on the community events calendar. And we're going to be formatting a weekly email that's going to be delivered to you on Monday mornings to highlight what's on for the week ahead. I'd like to acknowledge the staff team that's here today on behalf of the even bigger economic development and culture team, who work with energy and enthusiasm every day to plan and execute an incredible amount of programming and ensure that Brampton is a vibrant, inclusive, eventful city that has something to offer for everyone.
Wow. Thank you very much, Kelly. Don't
You're
go away.
welcome. I
We have
won't.
lots of questions. Councillor Moore.
Hi.
Thank you. I'll move receipt of the
Thank
presentation.
you very much.
Are you able to send this out to us in a PDF so we can sort of save the date, social media
Yes.
messaging that goes out? It's great that you send us something a week ahead of time and we can send that out as reminders, but sending out the save the date, I think, would be,
Sure.
people can get it into their calendars now.
Of course, through the chair, we'd be happy to. We have PDFs and electronic versions of all of this, so we'd be happy to send some of the summer season as a whole, and then we'll send you those weekly updates that you can send for reminders as well.
Perfect. And I just want to compliment you on all your hard work, keeping the square full. We saw just last week when the film festival for the secondary school students, and sitting in the square, it was just put a smile on your face to see all the just to see it full of young people and folks that work in the downtown. So you've done a really good job of putting all of this together, and the community events as well, whether they're in the square or elsewhere around the city. It's pretty impressive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you for the chair. Thank you for the presentation. Just a question around sports programming. I think from last year, from the Euro, we saw how successful the soccer is there, and I know this Saturday is a Champions League final, and I've been getting a lot of social media action. People asking, is there any way that we can show the game of two big clubs which represent areas which have a lot of following here in Brampton. I know it's late in the day, but I do know there's someone in the mayor's staff is still trying to see if we can get rights to the game. But that just leads me to our flexibility around other sports. So, for example, the person who owns a tennis shop downtown talked about, transmitting tennis games. I've been getting approached by members of the Indian community who want to put on the cricket championship that's going to be coming on now. So, are we searching, are we scanning to ensure that we're covering all the major sports to see if there's opportunities there to show, and how proactive are we being? Thank you.
Through the chair, absolutely. That's one of our big initiatives. The challenge we always have is the rights, and it's TSN usually has it, or Sportsnet usually has it, so it's somewhat very challenging. We are working closely with other offices in the city to try to get that. We were able, very fortunate through some success, to get the Blue Jays on Sunday, but absolutely that's our main priority for us, and we'll work on this weekend to see what we can do for that as well. But absolutely, we've tried to get Wimbledon. Again, it's owned by TSN. We've tried to get the Masters. We tried to get other things. We couldn't achieve the NHL finals. Again, because of the Maple Leafs and other things are protective of it. So, but we're trying, and maybe that's right. Every day, we are for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Medeiros. Councillor Willens.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Quick question, is the Mount Pleasant movie night going to be going this year, Because it's not on your list. It was in the Mount Pleasant market was there, but...
For recreation?
So that's still through Recreation, through Dave, okay.
Sorry, yes. So
Okay.
my understanding is that they are taking place, but they're managed through recreation.
Yeah, they're managed to
Yes.
Casa Camel. And the second question is, maybe it's, I'm not sure who put it on, but the hockey tournament that we won. is that not on the list? Did we not do that during Stella Brampton?
No, that was later.
No, that was, sorry, through the chair, that was just a one-off event that some of our community leaders put together.
So we're not
But
doing it?
we could look at that, and we could work closely with the BIA. We have talked to the executive director, and I think there's a good opportunity this year to do that.
Is it a case that they don't want to lose again, or?
Thank you, Councillor Willens. Councillor Miles?
Thank you very much for the presentation. Could we have that at council, please, for the public?
Through the chair, we are coming with an announcement on June 7th to sort of highlight some of with the event leads. We'll be making the individual announcements on Wednesday for all of the kickoff dates for all the summer seasons. We wanted to come here so we could answer any questions that you might have, but there is plans for the event leads to come on Wednesday.
Okay, I just thought that the way it's presented, it was really done well. It would be nice for the public to see that lead in, but I'll leave that with you.
Sure, we'll work on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Miles. Seeing no other questions, Councillor Moore has already moved it. Oh. Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Moore has moved the receipt of the presentation. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much, Kelly. Congratulations to your team. Great job.
Yes, thank you.
We will move on now to a series of reports. Report 8.2.1 from our Chief Administrative Officer, Economic Development Master Plan Project Initiation. Is there any questions about the report itself? Seeing none, would someone like to move the report? Oh. Councillor Miles, you'd like to move the report? All in Councillor Moore?
Something that gets sent to us. That's not part of this report, is it? Oh, it was just sent separately to our offices? Yep. Okay. It's well put together, by the way.
Okay, so the report has been moved. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Report 8.22, report from Bob Darling, Director Economic Development, Brampton Downtown BIA Summer In-Kind Service Requests. Any questions? Councillor Miles? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All in favor? That carries. Thank you. 8.2.3 was already dealt with under item 5.1 in the delegations earlier today. 8.2.4 is a report from Kelly Stahl again. Busy girl, Kelly. Celebrate Canada Grant and Contribution Agreement. Councillor Miles, are you still on, or are you
No,
on
sorry.
mute? Okay. Any questions about that report? Councillor Fortini would like to move the report. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. We have no new business, no correspondence. I will open it up to councillors' questions. There are no councillors' questions, so we will move on to Councillor Willens and Public Works.
Just let staff get settled in here. Okay. We have a couple of items on the agenda, but first is a staff presentation from Jane Holmes, and I guess we will move 9.2 is be moved up. So, go ahead, Jane.
Good afternoon. Last presentation of the day. So I hope you're going to find it exciting as we have been going through this project. My name is Jane Holmes. I'm Director of Capital Works, and today I'm here to give you an update on our project, Downtown Reimagine. So with me today, I've got only one staff member now. I've got Indy here. He's actually wrote the report. Bishu and Binu are part of my group, and they also worked hard on this project. And I've got MTE, Dave Hallman from our consulting group, who helped us navigate through the EA process. So you recall about a year ago, May 30th, actually it was Harry's first day of work, we came to you to give you an update on the the regional's downtown infrastructure capital works that were going to be taking place starting in 2018. And part of that, we were requesting permission to see if there was any additional streetscaping we wanted to do as on the city as they replace repair the works that they were doing for the underground works, to see if there was any streetscaping we wanted to do. So your direction actually from us was that as part of the restoration, your direction to us was any restoration works associated with that work did include for increased pedestrian and walkability capabilities in the downtown, and as per the scope of the project. So just to put in perspective where it sits in terms of our game changers, you'll recall that we've had a refocus of our strategic plan. The Downtown Capital Infrastructure and Streetscaping Project, renamed Downtown Reimagined, sits under our game changer urban centers. And if you'll recall, this is the extent of the Region Appeals Downtown Capital Project Phase 1. You'll see that it is really centered around Queen and Main Street. It goes down some other main streets, but it's really in the downtown core. They will be replacing a lot of their water main and sewer, sanitary sewer in the downtown core. And we will be partnering with them also to do any storm sewer works. So in terms of our project limits, for our downtown core, we are Main Street from Wellington Street to Nelson Street East, Queen Street to Mill Street South, Queen Street from Mill Street South to Chapel Street. We have a real opportunity in this scope of work because we do have two CN structures that we'll be able to animate and make part of the gateway features coming into the downtown core. Also included will be any resurfacing work, so where we aren't going to be implementing the streetscaping concept, we'll be doing some resurfacing to make sure that whatever we leave behind will be neat and tidy. So whenever you're doing a project like this, you do want an opportunity statement, and ours was to revitalize the downtown Brampton to create an aesthetically beautiful environment that boosts the image and awareness not of the downtown, but also of the entire city. We wanted to create an identity, animate the downtown, so it becomes a place where people want to go, capturing the hearts of Bramptonians. We also wanted to be bold with the change. We realized that this is a generational project. We want to think a little bit outside of the box to stretch the limits of what we usually think in terms of streetscape. We wanted this to be a project that was going to last for the next 50 years. And then we also wanted to provide transit, pedestrian, and cycling opportunities as per our Move and Connect portion of the strategic plan. So whenever you're going to do a public project that requires to change the capacity or function of a portion of the environment, you have to go through the environmental assessment process. And what that does is that it ensures that you get the proper public input. It dictates how and when you go out to the public, how you get that input, and how you implement it into your project. Our project is a Schedule C, which is just an indication of the complexity and the cost of the work. And with that, we were required to do two public information centers that we had in February and April of this year. In addition to that, we also had additional stakeholder meetings for those who were immediately affected by the project and showed an interest in the project. And we also had an opportunity to go to some of the other projects when they were having open houses. So part of the challenge when we were doing this project is that there are so many initiatives that are going on in the downtown, and none of them have really landed yet. So we're all trying to coordinate to make sure that as we go forward, we're not precluding the scope of somebody else's project. So as we went through the public engagement, it was clear that there were some preferences that were coming forward. So this is just a review of some of the preferences that reflective of some of the comments that we got at the public meetings. Whenever you have an EA, you always have the two extremes. You always have the do nothing option as well as the extreme option of closing the road. What you can see there is 36% of the people who put in their comments actually were in support of closing the road. When you heard some of the chatter and when you had those discussions and conversations at these meetings, what you heard were things like, wouldn't it be great to close the road for the summer? Wouldn't it be great to close the road for a couple of weeks for a festival or a long weekend? But what we also realized, even though that was the majority of what people were voting for, we also realized that closing the road in the downtown It would be devastating to the businesses inside the core, but also it would have an impact on all the other areas outside the closed portion. There was also a very strong showing for the alternative to the 2 lanes and no parking. And so when we thought about which way we should be going in terms of presenting a recommended alternative, this option of doing 2 lanes and no dedicated parking actually lends itself to closing the road when you want to do special events. So this is our recommended alternative concept. As you can see, it's 1 vehicle lane and 1 bicycle lane in each direction. You'll notice that the bike lanes are raised and they're flush with the sidewalk. We did have that discussion. Some of the members of the bicycle community who were here this morning were very helpful in making sure that we had our bike lanes right and making sure it was safe, not just for experienced riders, but also for new riders as they go through the downtown. We also have wider sidewalks, which was as per your direction about making it more pedestrian friendly and allowing for cafe seating and fixed furniture. But it also requires, this concept also contemplates the removal of dedicated on-street parking. And I know that was a bit of a concern for a lot of the residents and certainly the businesses in the downtown core. So as we looked at the downtown parking, there are 5 major garages in the downtown, and even in a worst case scenario at peak, there are almost 600 parking spaces that are available in the downtown area that can be used. One of the concerns that we did hear was that even though there's parking available, some of the concerns were that people didn't know where the parking actually was. So we can address that with signage as we go through our details design portion of our project. People are also concerned about the lighting and the cleanliness of the safety of going into those parking garages. So I think that is something we do have to look at if we go ahead with this option. We also talked about accessible parking spots. So there are accessible parking spots in most of those garages. And even though we're not actually obligated to put accessible parking spaces on the right-of-way, some of those parking garages do have height restrictions. And so we thought it would be prudent to actually put an accessible parking spot actually in front of City Hall. So in our design, when we went to the PIC, we only had 1 in front of City Hall. In further discussions with some of the businesses and the BIA, I think it might be more prudent to actually put an accessible parking spot in each of the 4 quadrants. So that anybody with mobility issues can still have access to the downtown. Another concern for our businesses were loading zones. So in looking at the laneways, we did point out that there were 5 potential loading zone areas. A lot of those laneways are actually being used for loading for those businesses now. We also have another loading zone that's right out of City Hall, and that is something we have to discuss in terms of how that's going to be managed going forward. Best practices in some of the other municipalities, they do have timing, so early morning or late evenings when you might be able to do loading out on the street. And also there might be some more development of those laneways that might be contemplated in a future study. So our ESR will recommend that the laneways be looked at because I think the laneways have a very important part in integrating with the streetscape that we are proposing. So in terms of traffic, so usually when we're doing an EA, when we're doing a traffic assessment, the traffic assessment usually dictates what the solution is to your problem because you're usually trying to solve some sort of traffic congestion issue. It's already there. In this case, we did a traffic assessment because we wanted to find out what the impact was of going forward with our recommended alternative. And as you can see, in 2021 at peak operations, it actually looks like a lot of the intersections in that downtown area are actually pretty good. There are a couple of them that have a lower level of service, but that is typical for a downtown area at peak operations. As you can see, when you look forward to 2031, all the intersections actually improve, and that's because our transportation master plan, for which this is modeled on, contemplates people finding alternative modes of transportation in the future. So our environmental assessment also requires us to look at the heritage properties in the area. There are a lot in the area, however, we won't be affecting any of them because we're not going outside of the right-of-way. However, we will make sure that as we go through our detailed design, that the streetscaping will complement the heritage in the downtown. As the downtown has evolved over the last few decades, we have older buildings, we have newer buildings, so it's important as we go through the streetscaping design that we have elements that complement both of those. Again, we found a picture here from downtown Brampton from 1973. So you can see already that our heritage already shows that people want to come to the downtown for special events. So some of our themes and concepts are streetscape improvements. We want to create an environment where all modes of travel are accommodated. We want to encourage outdoor retailing, cafes, and festivals and events. Again, we want to make sure that our design is contemporary, but it does complement some of the buildings and features that are already there. We don't want this to be faddish. We don't want it to be dated. We want to make sure that this is a project that looks just as good now as it will decades from now. We really want to look at some options about lighting as well. New lighting, we can create that nighttime experience. We know at Christmas time that our downtown looks really special, and we have an opportunity to do that in other seasons as well. And in our downtown core, we are very fortunate that we have the Garden Square, Ken Willen Square, and Gage Park that can also help engage with the downtown streetscape. So just looking at some of the ideas we were thinking about from street furniture, so we do want to make a statement when we're choosing these elements. With our street lighting, with our illuminated bollard concepts, we do want to have street trees. We want to make sure that those, we have a system where we're planting those trees where they're going to thrive and they're going to grow. And we also want to be pretty particular and picky about the furniture and the benches that are going to be used in the downtown core, just so they complement the design, but also that they have sustainability and look good for a long time. So here you can see where we have a concept where we've closed the road, but we've included elements in the streetscape that draw the square out into the street. So when you close the road, there's no line or difference between where the street was and where the square is. It becomes one continuous space for larger festivals. Now, we do know that when we're doing the construction, even though we've been talking in partnership with the Region of Peel, that we're going to make sure that as we go through the downtown, that the disruption, we want to try and limit it as much as we can, but there may be some events that go on in the downtown that may be displaced for a little while. All best efforts, I know particularly the farmers market is a concern. As much as we can, we're going to try and keep them in the downtown area. And we also have Ken Willen Square as well. So again, you can see there's an opportunity here when you close the road. What we're proposing is to take down the trellis structure and relocate that Zoom station so it really opens up the square to the street. And then bring those design elements out into the street. So now when you close that road, you will have a huge square that incorporates Gage Park, Ken Willen Square, and the Garden Square. And we've also had some discussions, actually just yesterday with Al's group. We know that they've already done some background studies in terms of redesigning the Ken Willen Square. So we're hoping to take that over as well. So all the items and intelligence that we've received going through this project, we can apply to the Ken Willen Square to make sure that it all becomes one continuous space. And so we keep talking about festivals and all the fun things that are going to happen downtown, but this is what the street will look like just on a regular day. And as you can see, there's lots of room for bicycles, for people to walk, for cafes, and it's just a really nice place to be, even when there's not a festival or a special event going on. And again, about the CN bridge underpasses, we don't want to miss an opportunity to really animate these. We can really use these as gateway features coming into the downtown. We can improve these with lighting, color, and signage. And we are having discussions with staff in regards to the implementation of public art at these places. So as we go through our design, because today we're here to see if you are in agreement with the alternative that we've chosen. It's not fair, though, to ask you to agree to alternative without some idea of what the cost is going to be. Our very high-level costing puts the design of the streetscaping at $25 million. That's very high level, and that will be more refined as we go through the detailed design. In that estimate, we have included for higher end finishes, because what we did hear from everybody was that if you're going to do it right, do it right and do it once. So we are making sure that we've included enough to make sure that we are going to have rich finishes that are going to stand the test of time, not only from an operations point of view, but also from an aesthetic point of view. Some costs that are not known right just yet that we will be putting forward in the 2018 budget process would be any repairs to the storm sewer, the state of good repair. So we are doing those investigations right now to see what needs to be done, because if the region is there, it only makes sense that we do those underground works as well. And also any tunnel remediation work. So we are doing our underground investigation to find out the location and the condition of the tunnel where it might exist in the downtown. And of course, the Region of Peel will be funding their own works as part of this project. So our next steps, provided that we are in agreement on the alternative, will be to file the environmental study report, because it does have to go in for a 30-day public review period. We've already started the process of retaining a consultant for the detailed design of the streetscape works. This is because we do want to make sure that we implement the streetscape works as part of the regional tender. And at this point, the region is anticipating that they're going to be going out for tender early 2018, so they can start the works in the spring of 2018. So we know there are concerns in terms of the timing of the work. The intent of the project will not be just to blow up the entire downtown so it's a mess for 2 years. We are going to do it very methodically, go block by block, as much as we can, try and do the streetscaping as soon as the underground works are done, but we do have to be careful in terms of timing for the time of year to make sure that all the settlement has taken place so that we have a good product at the end of it. So before I take any questions, I do just want to acknowledge that when we talk about the past, I mean, this project has a long past. This redevelopment of the downtown core has been contemplated for years, and the staff have done a lot of work on it over the years, and we're just so very grateful to the staff who have been here and have been worked on it. When they rallied around us, we have the privilege of delivering this project, but over the years there's been a lot of work done, and we were very happy that staff were able to rally behind us, share with everything that they've learned over the years, and help us come to the conclusion that we've come to today. And also acknowledgement to the Region of Peel, who have been great partners in this. I think it's just a great opportunity to show that even though we're two big corporations, we can work very well together when we're coming together for the good of the community. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Jane. Councillor Gibson.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you, Janus. That was very good, very exciting. I think maybe we should have some tours of those tunnels before we get to do something with them, although everybody's got to be willing to get down their hands and knees and crawl through them like I did. This is really exciting. I want to ask if we can, first of all, if we can add 9.4.1, bring that forward and deal with that with these next two reports, because they pertain to both reports. And I'd also like to ask Susie to come up for a moment so I can ask her a question, if that's all right, on their, is that okay at this time?
Yep, sure. Items of delegation,
Susie,
yeah.
can you come up?
2/3 all in favor to add. Yeah. Carries, thank you.
Hi, Susie. Thanks for setting this in. This was done through the executive committee, right? The board hasn't gone through all these questions not yet?
Correct, yeah. We have a committee called the Downtown Capital Project Committee, and we reviewed the report that was presented to you all last week, and we just put together a summary of questions that we've received informally, really, like on the street at the annual general meeting, and as well as the group together. You know, we reviewed the report that Jane presented to you all last week, and we, just due to timing, we haven't had a board meeting to formally review the recommendations put forth. So we did want you to know where we're at as far as and the questions that have been put forth. We think it's a spectacular, exciting opportunity for the downtown core. I just want to go on record to say that. And we don't want to be an obstacle. We just want to make sure that, we're representing 350 businesses. And naturally, there's lots of different concerns, lots of excitement, and we just wanted to bring those questions to council.
Well, I think that was going to be my point, is it's really great that both the staff at the region and the city and yourselves have had opportunities to get together and talk about these things so that we're not caught by surprise, when we're already gone too far forward. But there was one question I wanted to ask, and I brought this up a while ago, and I don't think there's been any discussion. I'm going to ask you. Over the years, many years that I've been on council, we've had people come to us, either live in the downtown or merchants in the downtown. Even the BIA at one time asked us about making the corner, the four corners, a pure pedestrian area and have a ring road system around it. As the executive, I know the board hasn't had that discussion, but has the executive had any type of discussion about whether or not they would support that or not support that? Because I ask that question now because if it was something that they would want in the future, it may be something that staff have to look at when it comes to doing those intersections, for instance, around Nelson and Wellington and all that kind of stuff to create that full ring road system.
We haven't had a detailed or fulsome conversation with regards to that, so I would recommend that if we did want to do that we would bring that up to the board and then come back to
I would
the
suggest
steering.
maybe we just have that quick discussion.
Sure.
Because I don't want it to be a surprise later on to staff to say, well, we did all this work and now they're asking for us to think about a ring road system around that may change some of the things that we're already doing. Personally, I don't think anybody's ready for it yet, but 15, 20 years from now, 25 years from now, who knows? I mean, maybe the thing to have. So if they can have that discussion there and so we can have at least an opinion on it.
Yeah, I would recommend.
Jane did allude to it in a report a little bit about creating a downtown that can, for instance, I think he said some people wanted to know if we shut the whole downtown for the whole summer type of thing. That's kind of what we're talking about. You'd have to create that ring road system around if you wanted to do that.
Well, in Jane's presentation, it was noted that a majority of people did like the Piazza-style downtown, but I think from an economic perspective, that's, as
I
Jane
think the
had.
BIE is going to have to do their homework on that one because it will have an effect on some businesses, so.
Correct, yeah, you'd need to do some further economic impact studies on that if you were to go that route down the road.
Thank you. And thank all three, the region, city, and the BIA, working so hard to get all this stuff out. This is fantastic news, it really is. The next two reports are just great. I'd be happy to move this report at the end when after speakers are. So,
I think Joe Patushka wants to comment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Councillor Gibson. As part of the detailed design, but we are aware that when we close the road down now for festivals or for special occasions, we have de facto ring road system comes into play, Wellington, George, Nelson, John Street, and so on. So we're going to be looking at how can we enhance those streets because we're getting more and more festivals, more and more demand for using the square and the street. And we are building a complete street here so that it's conducive for closing. So we're going to be doing more closings probably in the future. So we have to come up with an alternative. So that's definitely something that we're looking at.
Thank you.
And if I could just add to that as well, when we looked at all the different alternatives, we actually did do traffic impacts for all the different alternatives, including closing the road. And even though there were reduced levels of service in some of the intersections around the downtown core, it wasn't as bad as what we thought. So it is doable, but it will need some refinement to make it work.
Councilor Medeiros.
Thank you for the chair. Echoing a lot what Councillor Gibson said, great work by all the staff. My question is specifically around finishing. So marking sort of the downtown, not just the four corners, but I guess the whole circumflex of the downtown. Is there a possibility to look at, I've heard some downtown businesses talk about the European model of interlock. So when you get close to a downtown, you have it all interlocked, or you have some type of concrete pattern or some type of finishing. Is that going to be coming back to council for consideration?
We can do that. So when you look at some of the, particularly the cross-section, you'll see that it actually looks like a unit paver sort of system. You can get that look in different ways,
Sure.
But we know that it starts to become very expensive, so we are trying to be respectful of a budget amount.
Sure.
But we can certainly look at all different options, so what I would recommend is that we would come back with some different options in terms of what would be available and what those costs would be going forward.
Yeah, I would take this opportunity, and again, I'm not sure if it needs motion or just simple staff direction, is that we just don't close, and I understand the budgetary considerations and fully support it, but I do think that this is one of those unique opportunities where creativity, innovation, and really, raising the bar and see how we can be sort of outstanding as municipalities. So if I'm not sure if it's required, is directions fine? Just to provide some options in terms of possible finishings?
Yes.
Oh, yes, sir.
Well, through you, Mr. Chair. I mean, in this report, we gave you kind of a ballpark of $25 million. I mean, once we get into the design, we're going to have different options and different ways that we can attack this thing. And when we come back for a budget amendment or for a budget ask for the 2018 budget, we will present those options, and hopefully one of the combinations will be suitable for council to consider. But right now, the estimate of $25 million is to really get, as our CAO says, a platinum design, and something that really stands out. And so that's kind of the upper limit, we think. And but we will be coming back with options of how we can achieve the same kind of dynamic in the town with different materials.
Okay, so through the chair, then that direction is already being, okay, so that's fine. My second question is around, and I guess this would be to yourself, Paul, in terms of this type of work, enticing businesses in that area, some of the banks who have like old buildings, and how does that work? Is there any enticing that we can do? I know we do have the facade program, but is there anything, because this seems one of those unique opportunities, if we can engage proper businesses or bring other businesses, this is what because sometimes that issue is around, people don't find our downtown a fit, but might attract other businesses. I guess, are we developing some form of strategy along those lines?
Through the chair, yes. I think what we've seen now is with this opportunity of this so-called platinum look, I think it's the expectation, like your neighbor fixes their house, you want to fix your house.
Yeah.
So I think what we will be offering is to reapproach those CEOs and leaders in those, specifically the 4 banks who are on our main corners. And absolutely, we have approached them many times over the last 10 years. And for a number of reasons, they haven't done it. But I think when they see this plan, and many other businesses and many other landlords, you're going to start to see this as a great sales tool for us.
Excellent.
So yes, we need to reapproach all of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Bowyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for the presentation. I think it's starting to look better already. I think it's going to be a great result when it's done. And actually, I was Monday, I was in Sarnia, where I went to make a presentation at their council about water fluoridation that they're reviewing. And I had a chance to walk in their downtown, their historic downtown, quite similar to Brampton's here. Although it's even bigger, even though I think Sarnia, the population is around 80,000 people, but their downtown is quite larger than Brampton's actually. And I took some photos and I shared them with Mr. Patuska there, and it looks great. But I believe that we can do a much better job because that's been done a while ago. And the one thing I want to just comment on is. And actually, I was walking on Main, and I noticed that one of the things that really looks bad is the curbs. When the plows come along, they chip the curbs, and then they never look the same. And I have seen some downtowns where they actually use sectional stone curbs, and they can, if they're damaged, they remove them and then they replace them without having to tear up the street. that would be, I think, a nice thing to look at for our downtown when the time comes. I think that would be a nice feature. And perhaps even cobblestones. I think that Main Street, back in the days, there was cobblestones on Main Street, if I'm not mistaken. I believe they're still underneath. Maybe once they get dug up, we can salvage the old cobblestone. But yeah, it's the design looks great, and I look forward to actually happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
And as word of this spreads, there's more and more energy around and excitement around this. It's interesting you mentioned the cobblestone. I've made a note to mention it. If there are ways to incorporate into the final design some of those historic features that are there. There's a shop in downtown Fenelon Falls that a tunnel runs underneath it, and they have a hole in the, not a hole, but a glass, part of the floor is glass where you can actually, and the kids love, looking down into to see the water running underneath in the tunnel underneath. They are part of Brampton's history. And I got a call from Rick Kennard saying, back when all of this began, he said, Councillor Moore, how long have you known about those tunnels underneath downtown Brampton? I said, if you grew up here, you knew about them. And we'd been talking about them, and we can keep talking about them, but I think if there's an opportunity to introduce a feature like that, just like in the Rose Theatre, when you stand in that middle spot and you can hear the echo coming back at you. It's those little things that intrigue folks when they come into the downtown. So whether it's the cobblestone or a way to sort of make those, bring the tunnel to the surface so people can appreciate that they're there. I want to talk about something kind of different. And you mentioned the number of events that we have in the downtown and so on. During this construction, it's going to turn some of those events a little topsy-turvy. And so, particularly around the farmers market, I know our staff are working really hard for the downtown folk, businesses in particular, to keep the market in the downtown. And, some of the others we may be able to incorporate in, but that kind of goes to the need to consult with our economic development folks, the ones who are putting the farmers market all together and the downtown, so that when you stage the various pieces of this construction, you allow for the farmers market to continue, say, on the west side of Queen Street while you're working on another side, so that it's not all dug up at the same time. Is your hand going up because you want to talk to me, or are you just waving? Are you flirting with me, Councillor? No, but I think there's a need for it, and I think we're doing a much better job of everybody talking to each other these days. But the programming piece to the downtown is really important, how that unfolds during the time of construction. It's not just what's going to happen through construction and what it looks like when it's finished. It's how we manage those other festivals and events that are in the downtown traditionally, and that some that are really important to keep in the downtown, and that's the farmers market in particular.
And so, Councillor, we have had, through Mr. Chair, we have had extensive discussions with our events people, because we wanted to know everything that was going on in the downtown in the next couple of years, because we know that construction is disruptive. We are going to do our best through the Region Appeal to make sure that as much as we're going to be as least destructive as we can, but construction is messy. But we do know that there are certain key events in the downtown. Farmers Market is one of them, where all best efforts, wherever we can keep it in the downtown area, because we know it's important to the residents and the businesses there.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can I move the chair be heard? Just quickly, I think maybe through Bob, I know we've got the Heritage Block, Heritage Theatre Block out there. It's important, if anybody does have any interested parties in that they get in touch with staff to let the interested parties know that this is going on, so they can coordinate the work, so we're not digging up this beautiful project 10 years later. But we have, Councillor Gibson has moved that we accept the report, but we also have to, can we receive presentation from Jane? All in favor? That's carried. And can we receive the delegation correspondence from Susie Godfrey, Downtown BIA? Can I get a vote on that, please? Thank you. That carries. And Can I get I guess we were making a motion, were you, Councillor Gibson, to approve the staff recommendation? Get all in favor? That's good, that carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Our next item of business is 9.2.2, and it's moved by Councillor Gibson. Thank you. Councillor Paleshi, sorry, all in favor? Thank you very much. The next is 9.2.3 regarding traffic-related U-turns on Glenvale Boulevard. Would one of the area councillors move that? Moved by Councillor Fortini. All in favor? That's carried. The next report is from Traffic Operations Technologist in stopping-related issues on Bram Trail Gate in Ward 2. Councillor Paleshi, all in favor? Thank you. That's carried. The other two items are in consent. Correspondence we dealt with under the first item. Council question period. Seeing none, there's nothing on referred matters list. Government relations matters, 11.1. Councillor Paleshi's moved 11.1. All in favor? That's all in favor for 11.1. I still haven't seen enough hands. Thank you. That's carried. 11.2, the briefing report for Building Strong Partnership summary meetings of senior federal officials, May 18th, 2017, in Ottawa. Would you like to move that report? Okay, all those in favor of 11.2? You have questions? You're moving? Okay, that's carried. Public question period. I don't see anybody from the public here. That's good. Closed session we dealt with, so our next item on the agenda is adjournment. All right, thank you. We're adjourned. The next meeting is June 14th, 2017. Thank you. So they're 5:30 coming in?